morning, everybody, and welcome to our talk. Gary Luke is going to be our speaker this morning. He has been a member of the Historical Society and the Genealogical Society for many, many, many years. What he knows about burials and what he knows about these two areas is more than most of us. And so what he's going to talk to us about this morning is going to be very special. So I'm going to hand it over to Gary and say, enjoy, everybody, as we venture into the lands and records of New South Wales.
I'll start with the handout that you'll be receiving in a much better form. When various larger estates were being broken down and sold, there are many of these posters put up. So 1897, this particular area between Erskineville along the railway, Henderson Road, was being auctioned at that time. Lots of these sort of resources and other sorts of maps and listings will be covered in that talk at the State Archives, very different to the things I'll be covering today. I'll start this with, whoops, sorry, I wasn't going to do it that way. 6 maps. All right, trying to open it up. So down here, 6 maps where you can search for a property by street address or the lot and the deposited plan number. Just that, why is things in the way? Right. Here we are. So I search for 25 Septimus Street, Erskineville. And it puts a flag on it, marks the property in yellow. Right. Up here on map contents, I turn on lot labels, dynamic labels, lot boundaries, and that now shows street names and, wait for a moment as it comes up. So it's lot 1 on deposited plan 100316, right? It's all, so another way to go from an address to the lot is, let's see, where was it? Land Registry Services, this one. Sorry, going from the Word document again. Land Registry Services homepage. It's now called Land Registry Services. If you're looking at old research of people, you may see LTO as the reference for the agency, Land Title Office. And for a while it was called, what was it? Land and Property Information, LPI. Through various legislation, it's now called the Land Registry Services, where a lot of their functions has now been privatised. So the online portal is the starting point. Back to where was I? Lot 1, DP 100316. I can enter it here, 100316, entering it in that format, no DP, just 1 backslash and then the number. Right, so there's the property. I can choose neighbouring properties if I wanted to. It's now giving me that lot number in the address, but back to where I was. Prior title search, view, to prove I'm not a robot. And prior title reference 7064199. Now going to the Historic Land Records Viewer and opening that one up. Did it open? No, it didn't open. Let me do that again. Right, accept. And I know that that's a Torrens title reference, volume number 7064 and number 199 within that volume. So up here, attribute search, volume and folio. I've forgotten what it was already, so copy and paste it. And this is the prior title to the current lot number. That's that property, right? The sort of information on it is Lorna Marie Moole, wife of John Ross Moole of Erskineville, a telephone technician, is now the proprietor. Let's see, in the city of Sydney, Parish, Peterson, County, Cumberland. Counties and parishes. Sorry, I'm just digging straight into this. It's just such a large pool of information. It's nothing like looking up an index of birth, death, marriages across Berlin looking for a family. It's a whole field that you really need to just browse around in as you find your feet, get used to the terms, get used to the way properties is nominated, nominated at various times as well. The record keeping, the title documents have changed over a few times in our history as well. And also different to archival material, all of this material is still live records being referred to day by day constantly over land disputes, deciding boundaries. There's been a number of cases where a group of houses, around Newtown, I know, the back lanes that the Dunnicart man used to come into the toilets, now not in use. So one property owner may have started to use it as a garden. Now next door neighbour is arguing with that. They have to go right back to the earliest grants and build up a picture now of what, were there other rights being in covenants at any time that should take part in a legal decision about how this little strip of land can be broken down. So it's not like archival material that is finished with, now is all packed away carefully, and then someone has made index to it because researchers are now referring to it. These are messy live documents. Now, it's been part of the original 180 acres granted to Nicholas Devine in 1794, right? So even this what date is this? Sorry. Oh, 11th day of January 1956. So even in 1956, they're referring back to 1794 in nominating the property. Other things you'll find on here, after this particular document is cancelled, and here C Auto Folio 1000316, that was the lot number that we were reading off the 6 maps. Up on the left-hand top corner, you'll find all sorts of references to previous documents, where this one is volume 7064, folio 199, previous. 5613142. And primary application is a vital bit of information as well, where earlier titles was, hang on, can I find one easy? Before Torrens title, which was around the 1860s, it was implemented, the owner of a property proved their ownership by holding later on we'll have one open, but a single document describing the property, where this particular, then in Torrens title, it changed over to where the government is now guaranteeing the property rather than that written deed guaranteeing the property. And so on this one document, you'll find, let's see, mortgage. You'll find a whole lot of other transactions going on. The property was mortgaged on 21st April 55, was discharged, the mortgage discharged in 59. Up here, I can go to the next page, click, and find a whole lot of other transactions and dealings on the property. It changed hands in 1959. That was just after that discharge of the mortgage. Changed hands again in 66. A caveat was put on it in November 66. I don't know why. You would be able to apply to the property information for this particular certificate if you wanted to know why. It would have all the details on it. Just as this is just a call it a a mention of the transaction, but the transfer number K278974, you could purchase a copy at the titles office to find out how much it cost, and it would also have another detailed plan, possibly with where the sewerage is passing through the property on that document. So here's a whole chain. The caveat has been withdrawn in 73. Another person now owns it. This person now owns it in 74. Voislav Subotu and Paka Subotin, his wife. Up here, we find, what's this one? She mortgaged it a second time. These, instead of having a whole stamp for the discharge, have it written on here with the cross straight through it, right? Again, with the transaction certificate number that you could apply for. Finally, registered proprietor, Paka Sabotin, by notice of death. Her husband died, right? I'm not sure where to go from that with this. Hang on, did I have something else I was going to say about this? Oh, the primary application, back to what that is. Primary application number, I'll open up a second one of this. Who was it? So this was our starting point before, remember, with here where we picked the volume and folio to open this up. Primary application number is 1030. So this time instead, I dropped down to, where is it? Primary application number 1030, I think that was it. 19 pages of it. Very official and very regulated sort of document where a government clerk is going through every chain from the original grant to the current owner to verify the ownership and the property bounds before the Torrens title document that we were looking at here before. Where to go? What have I done? Before this Torrens title document was issued, sorry, the earlier one, 5613, the government, in guaranteeing the title, first needs to verify everything about it. So they started this on the 22nd of January at 20 minutes past 1 o'clock. Right? Just looking at what we find, just a few other notes. I'll skim through quite a lot of this. All right, so here's a summary of the chain of ownership. Similar for lots 5, 6 and 12 of the Rochford subdivision of Devine's grant of Newtown adjoining the Camperdown estate. Right? Nicholas Devine in the grant register, in earlier book and number, early title deeds, Bernard Rochford was nominated as owner of the 120 acres plus 90 acre of Nicholas Devine's 2 grants that make up pretty well the whole of Erskineville, down to where the brickworks used to be near St Peters, and a little part of Newtown across the railway as well. Same personal property, Bernard Rochford, then under his name, selling various 13 acres, 12 acres, subdividing the property. That was around the later 1830s, just into the 1840s. So this particular primary application, in verifying this, the current owner of one tiny small section of Devine's grant has had to map bit by bit a whole chain of owners that is going to be a lot larger properties than the particular one that is being applied for. Then it goes back through the whole lot again, but with more detail. Quite often, did I have one here? In another one that I'll open up, there's also a bit of a plan drawn there with various details on it. But the primary application is not just looking at chain of title documents, like that death of the husband. They would also be looking at checking out the death certificates. They'll be checking out wills, everything that may have led from one person ownership of the property to another person's ownership. Look, I'll pause at this point. Are there any questions on what has been covered here? None? No one has any questions. Okay, I'll move on. Which one was that? Sorry, I'm looking at other bits of paper where I had notes of things. Another property. Let's see. I looked this one up before. My grandfather had a property in Brook Street, Coogee, where my mother grew up. 4843. What? Oh, sorry, I forgot. there has been another title issued. So, look, what I wanted to show, this was for the primary application. 15587 was the primary application for this property. See, we've got two sets of documents. The one with the smaller number, often one or two or very few pages, is going to contain a drawn plan, right? The particular property was just one little section here, but in them chasing up all of the chain of owners from when it had been a large grant across the large part of Coogee, as they're shrinking it down to this particular property. They've so these are a whole lot of the title references that relate to all of this. There's the allotment 1, subdivision allotment 6, subdivision allotment 5, allotment 4, which you mentioned here, allotments 4, 5, 6. Up here is the grant references. Grant, see the GT. Grant doesn't necessarily mean it was a gift of Crown land. Grant is earlier days. It was, it wasn't free grant. Around the 1830s, grants were now sold. It's a grant to a freehold ownership from the Crown, whether it's free or purchased, no different. It's still called a grant, right? Now here they've summarised the bearing of the borders as well as the length of the borders on all of these plans. Second page of the plans is right. Various notes about it. On the west border of allotment 5 and west border of allotment 4, there are a small portion of the I'm not sure what that's abbreviation for, outside the applicant's occupation, right? And again, the main document with 8 pages, it's a similar cover page, time they even started, brief listing of the relevant titles, and looking into each one of those in more detail. Right. So primary applications give you quite a history of the breakdown of the original grant down to the current owner. That's, I was thinking, before I was doing this talk, sorry, I'm looking for a bit of paper that I've put somewhere else. The various reasons you may be researching a property. This is where two examples where I'm starting from current property and wanting to know the background of its ownership, going back into the past. Another purpose might be, hang on, where was I? Why can't I find that bit of paper I had? You might want to know what properties did your ancestor own without knowing beforehand where they are around New South Wales. I'll show you that one next. Now, let's see, where are we? Back to here. Sorry, lost which tab. Another way to search here is town name, right? And yes, just picking town that I looked at earlier. And, oh, sorry, before that. See, there's 7 matches, parish maps, charting maps, branch charting map, different agencies under the titles office have drawn up their maps for various periods, and sometimes where properties have changed quite a lot, there'll be a new map issued, making the previous one redundant. Now, this, you can see the first owners of all the township properties are written right on the properties. Moses purchased all of these blocks in the main street. Isaac Moses, which we know was one of his brothers, wasn't it? Purchased a whole lot here. Who else? Moses also purchased this. So how do we find out where so many of our ancestors are investing in new townships and speculating? They're obviously not going to be living on every single one of these. So it's not like where my grandfather purchased the property and built a house on it. This is dealing with land purchases and sales as a business, right? Another way to use this is, let's see, over here we have, to refine the search, I'll just shut that as well. Old system records, old system indexes, and in here we have vendors indexes, the people index to people selling property, and we also have purchasers indexes, index to people purchasing properties. So vendors index, and see how this particular register is from 1825 to 1848. Names beginning with AA. This one, same year span, names beginning with AB. So surname initial, and one that I know of, BE. Samuel Benjamin, one of the co-owners of the Goulburn Cemetery property, right, where I've been doing some other research of the surroundings. Samuel Benjamin, I looked this up before, did die 1856. In the BEs, year range 1848 to 1857. So you can see how they're now alphabetical order by surname, Beach, Beadle, etc. But within those surnames, they're not necessarily alphabetical order of first names. They're more usually chronological order, which you can tell by the title reference numbers increasing as we go through. You can see down the bottom right, there's 33 pages here, and it's really boring to go through them one by one looking for the name, but I'll have a guess, and it might be round about page 20. Bennett, bit 2, so it's a little before that. Bennett, Benjamin. All right. So going to the first of the Benjamins. There's a lot of Benjamins here. Right. Benham, 16, page 17 is where the Benjamins start. So Samuel Benjamin and Elias Moses is selling to John Smith, property at North Brisbane, Victoria Inn, Queen Street, leasing for 5 years, right? They're not necessarily all sales. Assignment of all interest under the lease over half allotment at Gundagai, right? So Samuel Benjamin, property after property, various dealings going on. Suddenly it changes to Rachel, his wife, where, if you read it, Rachel, also Elias Moses and M. Moss, were the executors of Samuel Benjamin's estate, right? So now that we're going through all of these, you would be going through the vendors' indexes, looking for the name in 1 year span after another. You can build up a whole lot of details of where they've been buying and then selling properties. Like Goulburn Stores built on allotment 17 of section 7 in, what's that, Manaroo Street, Queanbeyan. Allotment in the village of Old Collector at Lake George, right? Lot 1 of section 2. So where we saw those town lots in Yass, in all the names, vendors index is a good place to start if you don't know what properties were owned by an ancestor and you're really curious. But it's a bit of a boring job to go through them one after another, searching for which page has their name on it. But that's the way to do it. Stopping there for a moment. Anything about that anyone wants to ask questions about? No?
Sorry, Gary.
Yep.
Oh, just to remind people, if you do want to ask a question, make sure you unmute yourself and then remute yourself once you've asked the question. So my question, Gary, is so this whole database covers all of New South Wales. Is that correct?
All of New South Wales.
All of New South Wales. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And only New South Wales.
Are there similar databases in the other states, or you don't know the?
I haven't done research in other states. They would have something comparable. They may have. They would have had. I think Torrens Title started. I've forgotten his name. Mr. Torrens.
Mr. Torrens. Yeah.
In South Australia came up with this system. And then other states copied it.
So it's really just a matter of finding the equivalent of the Land Titles Office in each state and then seeing what they've got online or contacting them.
And probably the genealogical and historical societies may have put out some guides as well.
Yep.
It's really worth looking for that first to just find out the terms, the sort of documents and sometimes the hints of the legislation behind it all as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary.
Don't think of it as a database.
That's a shame.
As I said, it's a really messy lot of live documents. The finding aids are not for us that are looking up things like we look up genealogical databases. The finding aids are so that the experienced agents of property records can find what they need to.
Okay, I'm sure somebody will utilize AI to try and go in and create some sort of dynamic database style lookup thing.
I don't know if that would help. There's so many ways to approach this whole messy field of stuff. Sorry, just try to. get back to what I thought of doing before this all started. Another reason for property researchers is looking into the development of a particular area. Again, the Goulburn Cemetery, we're just at the beginning of putting together a conservation management plan of what to do with the cemetery over the next decade or two. And the valley, the semi-rural valley where the cemetery is sited, is earmarked for more industrial development by the council, and that's all, parts of that has already begun. So a good part of the conservation management plan is going to have to put forward, propose various ideas of how this cemetery can remain safe in this total change of its whole surroundings, as well as visually not be overshadowed visually by total change, where it might be empty fields at present, might end up with large warehouses around it. So how do you handle the cemetery to keep it visually reminiscent of its purpose as well? So I'll go back to 6 maps, search advanced, 118 Long Street, Goulburn. That's the cemetery, and surrounding it, it's a half acre of what was originally a 20-acre lot. And Samuel Benjamin and Elias Moses owned these 2 20-acre lots. And ever since their first grant, those 2 lots have been sold as a package, excluding the half acre, right up till just last February. A developer has purchased them. Right. This valley, it's, if you know Goulburn, if you're leaving the highway and coming down the hill just before you cross the river into the main township, you come down the hill, there's garage on the corner, service station here, and the cemetery is, where was it? Here, right, just south of the main road coming into Goulburn. This whole valley area is known as Charles Valley, not an official name, just locally known as, because of a Charles family that has owned properties there, large properties, since the very early days. Sorry, I'll just go into other folders now. Where is it? Not what I was after. All right. The cemetery, original grantees, Samuel Benjamin and Elias Moses, owning these 2. Moss Marks, who's buried in the cemetery, owned this one. Samuel Benjamin on his own owned this 20 acres. Woodward and Joseph Jones owned this. Joseph Fred Charles had all of these properties. And when I looked up through the vendors indexes, found, sorry, my mouse has just stopped. Right. these two and this property, over a couple of changes of ownership, ended up with Joseph Fred Charles as well, right? So what he actually did own, where was it? This whole lot and this property as well, all owned by the one Charles, and the most recent descendant lived in the cottage here, died 2 years ago, and the family intends to sell all of these properties. They don't intend to hang on to them. I spoke to one of them by phone just a couple of days ago. They intend to sell as soon as possible, all of their properties. So where a developer recently purchased these, this will be on the market. The council has begun sealing this road, putting a roundabout at the main Sydney road, intending this to become a bypass of Goulburn for large semi-trailers and B-doubles, right? As well as this is now, with the selling of these properties and this one already sold, this property here and this are already started their developments. That's already beginning to change the whole nature of this valley. So when I was looking for chain of ownerships, sorry, where is it? Right, going through each of those properties one by one and mapping the ownership. Lot 25, this was the one Woodward and Jones owned, sold to Donald McLeod in 1858. I haven't finished that search. These were originally owned by Joseph Fred Charles. Samuel Benjamin's property sold to Moss Marks, lot 46, and the neighbouring one that was already owned by Moss Marks. Then the two lots were sold to Joseph Collins, then to Charles Hamilton Walsh, etc., ending up by 1888 owned by Joseph Fred Charles. So where Joseph Fred Charles owned other properties from very early days, it wasn't until late in his life, almost death, that he ended up purchasing the others and these two properties. So in looking at how they ended up in the Charles family hands, that was another reason for searching. And then also by through the Land and Property Services, the privatisation, you can, it costs about $11 or $12 to get a certificate of title that will give you the name of the current owner, right, as well. It doesn't give you address, so you'd have to, if you wanted to contact them, you'd have to find some other way to contact the person. For the neighbouring property, where was it again? For this property development, luckily there was a signboard on the outside of it for sale that then had sold, and that had the real estate agent's name on it. So I dropped into the real estate agent, and he thought it's very interesting. He Goulburn one, and he knew of the cemetery and some of its history, and he gave me the name of the developer, which he spelt incorrectly, but I found the developer through that and I've had some talks with him. But another reason for doing property searches, right, as a for instance. I'm going to jump to a whole other area. Where are we? I'll shut all these down. Oops. Where is it? City of Sydney Archives. And reason for this of picking just one particular local government area is, let's see, where's the mapping? Historical Atlas. Civic survey will do. Right. City of Sydney has been, the records, council records of City of Sydney cover a whole area over a long period where so many of our ancestors lived or had businesses. And they've also transcribed, Sands Postal Directory that covers the whole of Sydney as well, from 1859 up to early 1930s. Does everyone know the Sands Directories?
Okay, that'd be good to explain.
Sorry, they are well known. Should I go into that a little?
I think it would be good to, Gary.
Okay. You can compare the Sands Directories to what used to be our white pages and our yellow pages. The listing of persons' names and their phone number and address, or the yellow pages that used to be the business categories under businesses of various sorts. But Sands Directories have a third angle to them, street by street. See, here we are, George Street, from Dawes Point to Parramatta Street, Broadway, roughly. On the east side, property by property, passage to Circular Quay, Argyle Street. So all of the cross streets being marked. So with some of the earlier detailed survey plans, you can start to figure where someone's property actually was. Yep. I hadn't thought of how to look this one, how to use this today. How to search directories. Again, so 1859 up to 1932, across that period, a number of ways you can search is listed here. Rather than me to go into anything at present now, well, look, I'll just do one quick one. Synagogue.
Really?
I'm not sure what will come up. May take a little while to find whatever.
I don't think the search got activated. You might need to hit search again.
Went blue for a moment.
Yeah.
Here we are. Where is it? It's opening up.
Mm.
1877, just before the Great Synagogue opened. One of 4 matches. What are we looking at? Almanac? Why would it? Highlight all.
Gary, a question for you. Do you know if there are other maps?
Sorry, do I know what?
Do you know if there are any online maps you can use to cross-reference with the Sands Directory street addresses?
Yes, I'll show you in a tick. Sorry, somewhere in here, there's going to be synagogue highlighted. Looks like there's 4 times. I've forgotten. It's a while since I've used it. I've forgotten how to look for the particular page. Right. Again.
Gary, I think if you see the next to the word synagogue, there's the back and forth arrow.
Thanks.
I think if you click on that, it'll take you to each one. There we go. Bottom right, you can see the highlight, not in the picture,
here it
not
is.
the picture.
Got it. Yep.
There's the
Just
highlight.
here. Where?
So if you tap on that
I'm just looking
back or
for
forth
any
arrow.
zoom. No, I can see the
Oh
highlight.
yeah, the zoom plus minus above the arrows.
Yep. Of course. Thanks. Thanks, Danny. Oops. Jews synagogue. I can read it. Right. So this is in Broughton Street, Freemasons Hall. This is still the York Street Synagogue. Broughton Street was one of the side streets near Druitt Street. 1877, that was the synagogue at that time. Yep. The maps. Historic Atlas. City of Sydney, 1833. Zoom in. Just picking any, I'll pick one I know of. This one. Survey plans. I'll download it with this button. Download the original. It's a large PDF. And when I open it up, owners and sometimes contestant owners of properties around the main part of the central business district. See the Samuel Lear? I don't know if you know, what was his name, Lear, the dentist? Solomon? No. Simeon Lear, the convict who was a dentist, who was possibly the Moyle, the circumciser before what's his name? Hyams arrived. When he died, he willed his property in Macquarie Street to the synagogue for his wife to still live there until she died, but then it would go to the synagogue. And I know from going through the synagogue minutes, they were renting it out for years, and then it wasn't until about 1950 that the synagogue actually sold the property.
Wow.
Right. Sometimes, why it's 1833, a lot of the earlier property grants and weren't well regulated, and it was under 33. I think it was under Governor Brisbane after Darling, before Governor Burke, that there was the decision we should really regularize all of these properties, and that's why this particular year span of all of these named properties. Thomas Biggs, that's actually Esther Spencer's property. That early Jewish convict woman. And sorry, I'm not sure why these names are here. Maybe Thomas, by 1833, I think it was still their property. But anyway, this is one lot of maps you can use. That's what you were asking. Sorry, looking for other lots. City of Sydney, 1855. Not all have been found. Also sometimes known as the Metropolitan Detail Plans. So this was the 1850s, remember? Again, got the properties. This is all church properties, wasn't a good one. Named Isaac Levy, owning this place. A stone building made of stone. Sorry, zooming in a little again. A shed. You're starting to weatherboard WB. Another shed here, another stone building, another stone building, and stone building with probably courtyard for the horses and carts. So 1855 is just before the first of the Sands Directories. So if you were looking at, say, George Street between whatever cross streets on the northern side, you'd have the listing of the first listing of residents, who's resident there in 1859 from Sands, and 1855, you'd have a bit of a picture of the actual buildings and the gaps between buildings. Again, City of Sydney 55, Dove's plans, and I forgot what year are we looking at here? Okay, Dove's plans, 1880s. Picking anywhere again. Warehouses, vacant. New South Wales Saving Banks, Gray and Sons warehouse, loading yard, courtyard. Again, nice details to match against the Sands listings. Another like that, where was it? Fire insurance plans. These get into fire insurance plans, get into a whole other range of details where oh, it is open. What am I doing? Fire insurance plans giving hints to firemen. If there's a fire there, what are they going to come across? Weak, cleaning. That's where the stairways are to get to another floor. An iron yard. Sometimes you'll come across oil is stored here. Or they're really amazing view of the central business district of that period. Supplies, offices, hardware for chemists, supplies, hardware and fancy and soft goods, furniture showroom, engineer showroom, etc. Hardware, merchants. Anyway, you get the idea. They're amazing plans, the fire insurance ones. Metropolitan detail plans. Where's that gone? Trig survey. Again, these were, what was this, 1850s, wasn't it? Trig survey, 50s and 60s, 1850s, 1860s. Oh, anywhere will do. With water and sewerage being laid on everywhere, these trig survey plans are related to that period. Sorry, download it again. Shapes of buildings everywhere. The street names in those block plan: Park Street, George Street. Anyway, this is from George through to Elizabeth Street along Park Street. This is the shape of the various buildings there. So again, you can match these buildings to the listing in SANS. Finally, among these plans, aerial photographs. Again, the larger footprint, right? Why not? Everleigh rail yards. Okay. So 1849, about 15 years after the end of the SANS directories, but we're now into phone book period and other ways to know where someone lived. Sorry, is that something? Did someone have a question or?
No, I wasn't sure whether it's 1859 or 1959.
Sorry, what?
No, it's all right. I just got
Okay.
mixed up with what you were saying.
Okay. Where are we? Assessment books, rate books for that whole footprint, right? Sample, number of the house in the street, name of the person rated, Pitt Street this is, name of owner or landlord. There'll be other details that we'll see. Let's try synagogue again. Oh, my mouse, maybe I need a new battery. My mouse doesn't like me. Assessment book, ward. They've transcribed these, which makes it a little easier. Name of person rated. It's a house, it's a warehouse, it's made of brick. The roof is shingled on all of these. They haven't filled in everything, the number of floors and the number of rooms, but you can often find that. Wonder why this came up for sitting. Might be one of the other pages for synagogue. Sorry, I'm not sure how to get to it. Here we are. Oh, I won't go looking for it, but trustee of the Jews synagogue in Macquarie Street. Oh, right, that's why. Wasn't the York Street or the other synagogue? It was the Macquarie Street synagogue trustee, right? But the front facilities of this rate books, you can be searching by a name of either the rated person or the owner will come up. You can also, if you know the particular ward of the central business of that area of Sydney, you could go to those books of particular year and go searching. You know, if you knew the address, you could go looking for it by address as well. Sorry, I need to stick a new battery in. Just one moment. Good. Back up and running. That's a technical hitch I didn't expect. Leave page. So from this front page of the City of Sydney Archives, which will be listed on City of Sydney Archives and History Resources. Down here, that's the page I started on. As well as assessment books, demolition books, photos of a lot of the buildings that had been demolished at various periods. Where was the other? Planning street cards. I know from looking at these, they'll be organised by suburb and then by street, and then a card for each building in the street, and chronologically on the card, various applications that have been made. So on these, I found where my father had applied to put up a sign outside our shop in Enmore in the 1970s, various things like that. Yeah, the change of licensing of a shop from hairdresser to delicatessen. So the planning street cards can cover everything from a DA application up to minor things of a particular address. So you really need to look for these, as far as I know, by suburb and 1949 to 68. Yep, how to locate a card. The street section, yep. Street C to E in Paddington, and here's one that looks like it's got quite a bit on it. Right. Is that all readable? Yep. Development application, etc. Yep. So they can be fun to look up as well. Yep. Their general, back to the front page again, where is it? Right. In the 1950s, late 1840s, for a few years we lived at Enmore, and with displaced persons arriving in Australia, our house became one where a number of relatives and friends were meeting. My father set up a business for them. One of the rooms upstairs was set up as a photographic darkroom. So we could supply photographers for most languages in Europe for celebrations going on. And town halls had a system where you could, someone would apply to be the photographer for the next year for all events of that particular town hall. So what these are is where my father of AJAX Photo Services was applying for being the photographer at Darlington and Redfern, another one in Redfern and Alexandria, and so all of those records were in there, and he was successful with a number of them as well. So other ones on my mother's side, the Steenbaum family name. I found them records of supplying from the wharf down in Darling Harbour, supplying grain for the council's horses, and one of his brother, who was a coach builder, supplying wheels for some of their coaches as well. So just doing a random search in this main search box for the family name or businesses, no telling what you're likely to find. Sydney City Archives, because of the sort of places our families lived and had businesses, there's just so much information available through here. I think that's probably enough about all of that. The only other thing to go into is the change of names. Yep. Does anyone have anything they want to just recap about all of the things we have covered?
Just on the historical aerial photographs, is there a site where you can look at the photographs for the rest of New South Wales?
No. I know in the, I'm not sure which division, it's probably based out of Bathurst now, but when the, I'm trying to remember, I remember years and years ago going into the Lands Department building in Bridge Street, where you could get copies of aerial photos, and they also had maps showing the flight path with little dots of wherever the shot was taken as well. And I remember that, where I was getting pairs of shots because there was about a 1/3 overlap with neighbouring photos, and under a stereo viewer, I was able to see the actual size of various mountains. It was after a visit out to Mudwinji near Broken Hill, and I wanted to get a picture of the whole lot of that land. So went in and purchased a group of those photos, but that was by looking at those maps and getting the references for the actual photos.
Siobhan, hi, Gary, a suggestion from Siobhan: try New South Wales Spatial Portal online. It has some historical imagery. Sure.
Thanks. I was just about to ask Siobhan. Spatial Portal. That was one site I was going to use today, but I thought, no, this is just too much. Anyway, I went to here just by doing a search for New South Wales spatial portal. Right?
Right.
Yep. Map viewers, browse data, all sorts of data has been overlaid over maps. I'm not sure which one to go to for the photos, but it's again a really big site to just go browsing around in. Where are we? Lachlan Road. All right. Looking for one of the town. Bathurst, that'll do. Okay, so we've got a street addresses, various layers, layer list widget, right? Local government area, Aboriginal land councils, addresses, lot numbers, water courses, right? Lots just for kicks. What's it say here? Right. Oop. Might take a while for everything to come up. How do I get rid of that up there? Oh, here we go. I just click on any. So right now, I don't know where. Go browsing. You can also pick 2 different periods or different topics and have a slider where you can, where vertical division that you can slide across one way or the other to compare them as well or get that matching. So this New South Wales spatial portal, I won't go into it further.
Thank you.
Just go browsing for a few hours on different days until you'll find all sorts of stuff in it. Thanks, Siobhan. Change of names. Let me just bring up the document I had for it. This is a handout you'll receive as well. We go back to that historic land records viewer again for this. And here is a step-by-step, the layer of menu to start with, filter it, a little warning. Then when you find the name, I'll skip through this as we're doing it. And then finally to find the document of it. Some you'll be able to find where it's miscellaneous. The miscellaneous register has been scanned, is online. While if it's not in the miscellaneous register, you have to actually email to Andrew Ironside and it costs $15, or go into Macquarie Street and purchase Liverpool Street and purchase a copy. I'll go through a couple of them. Where was it?
Gary, can I give an anecdote of my experience getting a deed poll?
Go ahead.
When I was trying to find my relative's name change, my great-grandfather's name change, and I did go out to Land's office when it was in that beautiful building opposite the cathedral.
Yeah.
And the guy told me that there wasn't an index at that stage, so I had basically was taking a punt that maybe he was in there. And the guy told me that only about 30% of people actually registered their name change by deed poll. So, and he only had one book, so I don't know what the other ones are, but he had one book and he said, if it's in there, you're lucky. And thankfully he was in there. And so the guy was very happy. And for my $15, he scanned everything and it was good.
There are actually 6 books.
Okay. He said there was only one.
No, there were 6 books. 1 volume covered one period, 2 volumes covered the next period, and 3 covered the next period. right? They used to, why they're in the lands, with land stuff, is because the actual deed polls are all just bound up with various other deeds in the miscellaneous registers. Like there's a lot of power of attorney, there's commercial agreements, there's all sorts of documents are in the miscellaneous registers. So when the under earlier days, under the Registrar General, there were birth, deaths and marriages as well as property registration. I've forgotten when, but the birth, deaths and marriages were hived off to a registry just for birth, deaths and marriages. I think in other states, the change of name deeds were in separate registers, so they went also to the birth, deaths and marriage registries in other states. But in New South Wales, because of them being bound up with other sorts of documents, they were retained by the Registrar General's office, which became the land titles, etc. So old system records, again, old system indexes. And change of name index from 1875 to 1967. Again, indexed with the first two letters of a person's name and two different year ranges. You've got 1875 to 46 and 1847 to 1976. See, this very first one just has a single initial. It's very different to all of the rest. It's actually a description of the 6 index books, right? The first one, a single book only, 2 books for this and 3 with this one, and the various legal agencies that handle change of names of various periods. So this very first document is a handy one to have a look at as well, giving you background to the whole thing. Now, if I search by surname, and I'll do a WI, because it's one that I know of, Barbara's grinning. And when I open it up, 75 to 46 and 47 to 67, right? The 2 sets. It's going to be right near the end. So there's 8 pages. I'll go straight to page 8. I'm looking for Witkowski. And what I find is the last one is a Worth, not a Witkowski. Try this. Maybe there weren't any. 29 pages. I'll show you. This is giving you a warning about something, right? Again, no Witkowski, right? WITK can't fit there. I'll have to reload to do this and go back to old system indexes. Again, change of name. And now I'll do it by year range. And I don't have to put the exact year. If I put a from year that is before 1946, 1930, it will only bring up the year range volume, the year range indexes that are after 30. And if I wanted only the early ones, again, I don't have to put in, I can put in, what was it? 1946, 1950, and this way it'll only give me the earlier ones, right? So you don't need to put in an actual year range. just put in a year larger than the final year of the early records or a year from year earlier. And in doing this, if I go to the W's, which is going to be near the end somewhere, let's see, WY,
Back one.
go back one, and starting to see it already where there's overlaps of the indexes. Like when I did it by the initials, it only showed up the pages that only have that initial, right? So the WIs, the WH and WI, well, this is WH to WH. So this will be the WIs with the third letter being near the start of the alphabet, and this one with the WI and WO are going to be the ones, the WI names that are alphabetically past the ones we saw before. So there's a little trick that you can fall, a little warning of what you can fall into. And here we've got Witkowski, now Witten, Hedwig Witkowski, now Hedwig Witten, etc. And also when you look down here at Witten, indexed also by their new name. So these indexes are both by the old name and by the new name. Wittenberg, Morris Wittenberg, I don't know if others knew him. I'll keep this here, but I'll open up another of it. Where was it? Portal? No, wrong one. So miscellaneous register, again, old system records. Now, instead of the indexes, old system registers, and go to the miscellaneous register and miscellaneous register number. The number for Morris Wittenberg was 33247. 33247. And deed poll, paid £1 for it. The underside, Morris Witten of 99 William Street, Earlwood. I remember their house. Now lately called Morris Wittenberg, etc. Right? This is the deed poll. Very little information besides the date, maybe the address. Here we've got a business, but and sometimes there will be other notes. It's really worthwhile just looking around the margins. You'll sometimes find something like there may have been during wartime, a security inquiry if someone had suggested this person was some sort of security risk during wartime. Could be little references to alien registration records or naturalisation you come across on some change of name deed polls as well. So it's really worthwhile looking at all the little bits scribbled in margin in case there's something else there. Yep. I think I've gotten to the end of everything. And we got another almost half hour if we want.
Gary, I've got a comment to make.
Yeah.
The name changes you show are actually my father, my uncle, and my grandmother. But
That's why I used them.
But the men don't have their wives or children on those documents.
I wonder, I'll go back to that very first one.
And I've actually just got a short letter, which is an extract telling me that my name was changed. That's the only official document I've got.
Right. And you did it, hang on, oh, that's right here. I haven't read this in detail. I wonder if,
Oh, okay.
prior to first established, I know my father and my uncle, their name change doesn't mention my mother or the children either. I think it was just that general thing of the time that the male was considered representative of the whole family.
But they formally needed some sort of paperwork or if they went out to prove that.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've had to, my birth certificate says Witkowski, but then I have to prove that there was a name change. And I've got this little extract that says that it was changed, but I've got no formal document like these to provide.
Maybe it was more or less like a JP that understands that where the male is changing the name, that applies to the whole family. Again? Someone just speaking?
Yes, Diane or Philip Moses. No,
sorry,
maybe not talking to us.
Okay, yep. Oh, hello, Philip. You weren't there earlier. That's all I can think. Where someone in an official position understood that it covered you as well, and so from that official position, he was able to give the authority for it. I can't think. Maybe it was some process like that.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Any
so
questions?
There you are. It's a big messy pool of stuff, as I said earlier.
Do you want to
shut down
take your
the
screen? That would be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, anybody got any questions?
Has anyone done any part of related searches and want to tell us about it?
I went to Gary when I needed the help. I think the land stuff is mind-blowing. I really do. The amount of information that one can obtain, one has the patience to really go through every single section to find it. But Gary, what you've shown me today is that you and I were destined to meet, because I grew up in Brook Street, Coogee, and that
did you?
showed us is Bream Street and Brook Street, which is literally the corner I walked past for 20 years of my life. So
right.
we were definitely
a bit after my mother's time of the 1920s.
Right.
Yeah.
Gary, will those records, actually it's not City of Sydney, so I was just wondering if there are records that show, actually no, in the New South Wales one, repossessions. If somebody loses a house because they go bankrupt, there'll be evidence of all of that, won't there? On
the Torrens title, I haven't come across any, but it would be
in the 1950s
could be,
that happened to my grandfather. So
those there's probably covenant put on his property for a while and then released while the case is being looked into, and the certificate number that you can apply for may explain it. That's my first thought, but
I'll dig into that. Diane Moses has a question. She has a hand up.
Yep.
Well, firstly, will this recording be available? I made a mess of daylight saving. I'm up in Queensland.
What?
Of course, missed it.
You're not only an hour late, you're about a few weeks late.
It's not unusual.
Yes, Diane, it will take me a few days to clean up top and tail and organise the handouts, but it will be available on the AJHS website in the blog, but we will also, hopefully, if I can get it done in time, in the next newsletter, there will be a link to it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Next thing, I heard mention of the Sands Directories, with which I was completely unfamiliar. So I went hunting for my grandfather, who had a draper's shop in Murwillumbah back in the 1917 to 1920, and there it was.
Wow. Well
Thank you.
done.
Even in Murwillumbah.
Yeah, Murwillumbah, not.
Mm.
And then there's a listing for him for a Southern Cross Hotel in Elizabeth Street, Sydney. And it's now called Strawberry Hills Hotel. Is there any way you can find the names of former licensees of these sort of places?
Yes, there is. There's a licensee index, and also try Trove.
The-
Sorry, Gary, I stepped on that.
Yeah, the Society of Australian Genealogists
Right.
put out a CD, 10 or 12 years ago, of all the city hotels or hotel licensees.
It's absolutely marvellous. You are wonderful. Thank you all.
Glad you
I
could
have
join us.
licensees too, Diane. So my great grandfather was a licensee across Melbourne, Victoria, and New South Wales.
Mm.
Oh, well, it's good to know I can keep chasing these.
Yeah, Trove has the gazettes, and all license applications were published in the gazettes.
Oh,
So if you just put his name in inverted commas in Trove, and then kind of the date range, like just filter down to the date range, you should be able to narrow it down, and provided he doesn't have a particularly common name, you should be able to find notifications in the gazettes.
Oh, that's absolutely marvellous.
Where you can pick particular publications, pick the New South Wales Government Gazette.
Yeah.
I think tobacco licensing was in there as well. And another interesting lot I found for my great-grandfather were letters that weren't picked up. When across the 1860s, when he was a travelling hawker, he may never have been to Berrima or Wagga, but someone expected him to be there, and there was a letter that he never picked up at these various places.
Did anyone hang on to those letters, or I mean, are they still?
I doubt it, but those letters not collected show at least where someone expected your ancestor to be. It doesn't mean they were actually there.
This is a rich resource. I can see what's going to happen for the rest of Sunday for me.
Yeah. Oh, Trove is as it is named. It is so full of treasures.
Before to chase information on family members, but I didn't realise I could look at licenses and so on. So that's great.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
We were going to finish this at 12. There's a quarter of an hour. Does anyone know of other sets of records that are fairly unusual that others mightn't know about that you want to just mention?
I think you've opened up an extraordinary collection for us to go thinking about and searching. I'm not sure any of us can give you a straight question off the top.
Okay. So may as well all go and have lunch now.
Well, just before we do, let me thank everybody for attending this morning. I hope you had as much pleasure as I did from getting all of that information and knowing it's going to take me goodness knows how long to even understand how to find everything I want to find.
Yeah.
But it is an extraordinary resource, and the time that Gary spent learning all of that has just been amazing. And thank you, thank you, thank you.